Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Expansive CEO Podcast. We are talking on the continuation of the episode from last week when we were talking about how do you change your relationship. You have to make different choices if you want to change your relationship with a person. And we also said we were going to talk about how you change your relationship to money. And we ran out of time because Lauren and I talk too much. No, we don't.
Well, no. We just tend to we have a lot to say, that's all.
There's a lot to say.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. So this week, this episode, we are going to talk about, okay, how you change your relationship to money. And there are definitely human design and Gene Keys elements that can go along with this as well. But it's in the actual experience of how you approach opportunities and how you approach your spending and how you feel when a bill comes in or when you get paid, right? Like a lot of that is very, I want to say experiential. Like the actual change is in changing the actions that you take when you are given different opportunities. And so this is more, I wouldn't say this isn't a tactical episode necessarily. But in order to change your relationship with money, you do actually have to take a different action than what you've taken before. And so we're going to go into some really, really powerful and timely examples of how we've seen that recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say it's also like as part of the process which we'll get into, and you actually just mentioned this before we got on, is seeing the pattern, being aware of what's happening in the moment. And you can only do that if you've taken the time to build awareness around what is it that I feel about money? What is it that I do around money? What is it that I feel or think about money? And then once you start actually articulating that, bringing it to the surface, then you can see as you're going through life and experiencing it, oh, that's where the pattern comes. That's where this pattern is, or that's where it's coming out. Or in our work, we can see it as a reflection, or we can use it as a reflection to the clients that we work with and say, hey, remember when we said back in the first meeting, here's what you experience with money? It's showing up again.
Here it is in the flesh.
Yes, here it is in the flesh. And then, oh, by the way, now that we've built awareness around it, have acceptance for whatever it's been up to this point, and acceptance that you want to move forward. And then that's when you can take, as you're just saying, like a different aligned action, an aligned action to the relationship you want with money, a relationship of how you want to change. Then you can take those aligned actions.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we're going to put it in this framework again, just so that it's super clear. And this is the framework that we use in the Money Story Meditations, in the Expansive CEO program, in X Squared. It lives underneath everything, either implicitly or explicitly, is this framework of awareness, becoming aware of the pattern, of the story, of the emotion that you're feeling, whatever, like suddenly you see it. You maybe have heard this in other ways. You know, some people will say, if you can feel it, you can heal it, right? Or once you see something, it disappears. Once you see the problem, it disappears, right? The act of awareness. I don't fully agree with that second one.
Yeah, no.
I think there's more to it than that, but there's so much power in seeing it. Whatever the it is, whatever the thing is. So awareness is becoming aware, knowing, seeing, feeling something that previously was unknown to you, was hidden to you. The second step is acceptance. And this is one of the most important steps because acceptance is what allows us to like take a beat so that we're not just like launching into action. what we tend to do or want to do a lot of times is, oh, I see this thing, I'm going to do something different. But what that does when we skip over accepting what is, we actually are still moving from trauma, or we're still moving from the pattern. We're just maybe going in the opposite direction than we tried before, right? So you're taking a different frantic action, or a different panicked action, or a different just the energy of it is still like rather than, hey, we're going to slow this down. We're going to go turtle speed for a second. We're going to turtle this.
Yeah.
So that you can feel all of it. Realize, this is the big part of acceptance. Realize that you can feel it and you're not going to die. You're going to be okay. And then when the emotion clears, you actually then see the aligned path of action. That's step 3, is aligned action. So rather than, if in your awareness state of like, oh, something's wrong, we're going to do it. Like if your first reaction would have been, in a panicky reaction mode, acceptance allows us to sit, be still, feel it all the way through, let the charge release. And then all of a sudden, that panicky thing that you maybe wanted to do first, you see it and you go, oh yeah, that's not the right thing. We're going to take this action instead. And that process, awareness, acceptance, aligned action, again, is the difference maker to everything else that we're doing. Is that we're going to slow it down so that you can actually make the right decision for you, rather than continue to make decisions that repeat the patterns that you've been cycling through for however many decades that you've already been doing.
Yes. And to recognize specifically in the context of money, your relationship with it wasn't fully written by you. Most of it probably wasn't written by any single one of us carrying it. We observe it through conversations that we had or that we were surrounded by growing up, right? Listening to your parents or caregivers or anybody, any kind of authority or parent figure in your life, listening to their perceptions of money and just kind of absorbing that, simply because you didn't have the awareness of what it all actually meant. And you couldn't relate to it because at 7, 8, 9 years old, you likely have no personal interaction with
Right.
money.
Conscious understanding. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so part of the, as we work through this and what we've noticed with clients, part of the acceptance is accepting that, hey, you're not the one who really wrote this. Now, that's not to place blame. That's not to, shove everything off and take accountability off of your own shoulders. It's simply to say, it's not a moment to beat yourself up. It's a moment to have grace for whatever experiences you were given, because again, those were somewhat outside of your control growing up. Having an acceptance for whatever versions of you have made decisions in the past that led you to this related to money, of sitting in that, taking a turtle's speed, processing through it, of just giving yourself a little bit of grace, a little bit of patience. And to your point, yeah, these might suck to really feel, but you will survive. You will get through it. And it's only getting through that level of acceptance that you can take a more aligned action to who you are to change your relationship with money. Because it's probably one of the most, I would say, top 3 significant relationships you have in your life. And 99% of us never sit down and really work through that. A lot of times we don't know when to start. We don't know how to start.
We don't know. Yeah. We don't know how to start. Don't know when to start, and all of those. I mean, I get those questions from people sometimes, right? Like, I mean, there are different entrance points depending on what your situation is, where you're at, right? And that's the piece for my heart, right? Like there's a piece of me that before, not so much now, but like when people would come to me and, either be in a lot of debt and very little income, or like, how do I do this? How do I fix my credit? How do I, like my heart would want to be able, like, I want to help anyone at any place get here. And I really had to like sit with that and understand that, okay, I can't be all things to all people. I can't do the whole thing. From start to finish. I do kind of have to pick the points where it makes sense for people to, come into different ecosystems. But even then, like we still have been really intentional about creating, here's a place to plug in wherever so I'm going to take that back. It's not wherever you're at, but there are quite a few entrance points, depending on, what level of support that you need that we can help with. I don't know where I was going with that necessarily, but just that, accepting where you're at, accepting, all the choices that came before that got you to where you are now. If you don't want to, continue this, for the point of this whole podcast and the one before, if you don't want to continue that particular relationship with money, then you have to make a change, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we're going to interrupt that pattern. We're not going to do the same thing over and over again anymore. And that's how we're going to get the different result. That's how we're going to make the actual shift. So let's do this. Let's talk through, because I actually have literally two separate examples of this showing up just this week with different clients. And both times, so these are both business owners, very different businesses. But both of them have the opportunity of creating a new offer. One of them is like a mastermind type container. The other one is an ongoing relationship with someone who can send them business. So these two different containers, both having the opportunity to create something that could either create more financial ease or continue their current pattern of creating just enough and experiencing a lot of financial stress in the delivery of that offer. Pause there for a second. Any other context you want to add, Lauren?
No, I think that is great context for both of these.
Okay, so let's go with client one who's creating an offer of partnering with someone who can send business to his business. The pattern that you actually alluded to this same person before, is like in earlier parts of our relationship. And I've known both of these clients for quite a while. That's another really important piece of the puzzle, is like this longer term relationship with people really allows you to see patterns. It's really, really valuable. So I've known both of these people for several years. And this particular client, one of their stories was, there was enough in childhood. This is a money story that actually came up through one of the money story meditations. And the childhood story was, we had just enough. There wasn't more than enough. There was just enough. And the other, growing up, seeing the other kids around him, they had more. They had nicer houses. They had nicer stuff. They had opportunities to go do other things that his family couldn't afford. They weren't starving. They had food. They had shelter. But it was just enough. There were no extras. And the other piece of that was just in time. Like things happened, like it was scary, scary, scary. And then, okay, something landed just in time. And so we mined that story, many weeks ago, months ago, even had that come up. And Lauren and I both were like, okay, put that in the little bank of, we know our clients really well. This opportunity now comes up where, okay, the business does need to make more revenue in order to be profitable, in order to make things flow better. An opportunity comes up that could be a golden ticket, basically. Like this one relationship could actually be the thing that launches the entire business into profitability for the first time in a long time. And in the conversation, I felt it first and I was like, okay, we need to have a conversation first about pricing before you go and, make an offer to this person. We need to talk about pricing. And my concern, the thing that was coming up for me and my putting my coach hat on was, I'm worried that he's going to undercut himself in order to secure the relationship. I'm worried that that's, it's going to then create a lot more work with still no margin, still not profitable. Now you're just have $1 million revenue business that costs $1,100,000 to run. Because that happens. Oh my gosh, my dear listeners, it happens so much. You would not believe how often that happens. It's heartbreaking to see how hard people work. And to know that it's actually like the reason they're not profitable so many times is because of a money story. So as we're going through, his math and my math are coming out a little different as to, the other person said, I want it to be at this cost, or I think this is the cost that my clients can bear. And so he's trying to finagle his math to get there. And as I'm doing the math with him, I'm saying, you said your floor is down here. If you charge that amount, you're going to still be in the exact same place, even with this quote unquote opportunity. Your floor has got to be higher than just enough. In real terms for this, it was like for the specific thing, the person that he was talking to was like, I want it to be at $100 total, which means he needs to be able to sell it to this other person for less than 100, quote unquote. That's kind of like the starting point for something that he normally sells at 155. And so he's trying to work his math to try and get it down to 70, thinking, $70 per item is going to be okay. Oh, that should cover all the employees. That should cover everything we need. And when I'm looking at the math, I'm saying 93 is your absolute lowest you can go and still be able to pay yourself from your own business. And I have to it's hard. It's hard to hear that because he's over here thinking there's so many good things about this relationship. It could lead to so many other opportunities. I can see all this other, auxiliary value to the relationship. And what is all that doing? It's actually, I can feel it in my own chest right now. Like I can feel it bubbling up, the anxiety of, I'm just afraid of losing this opportunity. I got to make myself smaller in order for it to land. And so what does that do? It exacerbates, it extends, it repeats the pattern of if I charge just enough, they'll say yes.
Or if I accept.
If I accept, yes. If I accept just enough, they'll say yes. And then maybe there's going to be an opportunity in 6 months to increase. And that is the pattern playing out in real time. I know, I'm so used to feeling just enough, and I'm so tired of it being just enough, and it sucks, and I hate it, and it makes everything stressful. And, my relationships are strained, and I'm like, I don't feel good, and it makes me emotionally and physically feel bad. All right. Awareness. We see it. Here's the opportunity. Here it is in real time. You have to change your pricing. And not even change your pricing. That wasn't even it. It was his price was $155. This person, this provider just kind of said, I think my people will pay $100. And the reaction to be like, oh, I gotta get under that before even having more of a conversation. That was the piece. It's like the panic piece of, I gotta get under what this person just threw out in order for it to be okay, rather than coming back to a conversation and saying, hey, every other provider, we start at $155. Here are some of the volume discounts we can look at. If we hit this threshold, we can bring it down to $125. If we hit this next threshold of, you sending me orders, we can bring it down to $93, and that's my floor. So then the other person can choose from there, okay, well, what margin do I want to mark up for the end user? And am I okay with that? It doesn't mean immediately, right? It's like the immediate capitulation of like, I'm going to get under his number. That's the trauma. That's the pattern talking first, rather than the confident, hey, I know what I have and I know what I'm doing, and I'm actually creating an extremely premium product that deserves to be treated as such.
Mm-hmm.
Then we move from the aligned action of, let's make this a win. Let's make this an actual win-win-win. A win for the end user, a win for our client, and a win for the provider. But in that win-win-win situation, the client is there. They exist there. Mm-hmm. They have to win too.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much in these money stories. And as you were talking, there was another element of acceptance, right? There's the awareness. As you said, there's awareness, see the pattern. It's there. The acceptance, part of the acceptance phase is recognizing that you have to want something different, and you have to be okay with the discomfort in the first few reps that you ever do this in trying to shift the pattern. It is going to feel real awkward, real cringy for you as the person who has held this money story of just enough. Because in this scenario, and any of us with a money story similar or whatever, is that we've normalized it. That we've normalized in this particular instance, the client has like, well, it's just enough. Like I have to meet him where he is in order to get this opportunity. And then the hope of, well, if I accept this under what I really, really need, then it can lead to whatever, as maybe the provider sees something different, comes up. But what's happened is that the client has already established the pattern,
right, of undercharging.
Of compromise, right? We talked last week in the last episode about, compromise. Somebody's got to bend and somebody wins, right? Somebody loses and somebody wins in the conventional sense of compromise. And when what's the word I'm looking, perpetuating the pattern, you're setting the standard, the client's setting the standard of, I accept what actually doesn't work for me. And again, this is a real world situation that we're looking at. And as Hannah and I look through this, we go back part of energy, right? This beautiful soul has an undefined ego center, all related to the material plane, all related to worth, all related to self-esteem. And this particular client is brilliant, one of the smartest individuals that I have ever had the privilege of just like listening to. Be like, holy shit. You know your stuff. You understand the world. You see this huge picture of what can be. And what's running under the surface is it's just enough. And through the lens of an open heart center, for anybody listener listening, it's the small triangle to the right of your chart. That being undefined or white, you have no consistent understanding of what you're worth. And it would make total sense of someone who's grown up with that level of energy, or that configuration of energy, to develop a money story related to just enough. Because if I ask for more, I don't know that I'm actually worth it. And keeping himself stuck in that, when really, when he, again, he's brilliant. When looking at the numbers, 70 and 93, while it only seems $23, hello, can't do math, $23.
That's my job. It's okay.
Yeah, right. Lauren's not doing math. She's not in the Excel spreadsheets. But multiply that by the volume of what this potential opportunity could be. As someone in my life would say, that's just real money, and this idea of, it adds up. And to perpetuate that story, and it's building awareness that it's there, and accepting that, again, if you want something different, the next aligned action is going to have to be something different than you've done before. And step into that confidence of 93 is my floor. And to your point, if we start at this floor and as we develop this opportunity and this relationship, there may be things to explore that allow us the opportunity to move the math in a different way. But right now, this math is this math.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's going to feel real. I can only imagine, real, that tension of, God, I'm really scared to ask for that. Or it doesn't feel comfortable asking for that, even though logically and even energetically, I know it's the correct thing.
Yeah. I want to layer on the second example here, because the first client, like you said, undefined, not completely open though, right?
No, not completely open.
Not completely open, but undefined. So not colored in. Second client, completely open, ego center. Completely open. No explanation, right? And I'll be super honest. I have a defined ego center, will center, and it's a pretty good majority of people who are drawn to me have an undefined ego. And part of it is, because I tell people, hey, we can figure out what your pricing should be. We can figure out what your offers should be based on all of these other factors that we have to take into consideration about your life. And so it makes complete sense that people with open ego centers who are like, I just don't know, come to me to be like, okay, help me figure this out. And hilariously, It's one of the hardest things to actually implement once we figure it out for this exact reason, what we're talking about right now. So what we're walking you through is the elevation of even me learning it's not enough to just put the numbers down to say, this is what makes sense based on all of the things you need and based on your energy and based on, right, like all the heart-centered things that we do plus the logic. Here's your numbers. All of that gets basically thrown away in the trash as soon as, someone with an open or undefined ego sits in front of a client or in a sales meeting. It goes flying out the window.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And they're like, well, I wanted to give them a discount. And I'm like, okay.
Now you got to sell more of that.
Now it's gonna not. So again, layering on the second example, this one is a mastermind. Like one of my absolute favorite clients. I say that a lot.
He does it about everybody.
I do. You're all my favorites. I love you. It's just whoever I happen to be thinking about at the moment, I guess. But I do. I love her. And so excited about this offer. Like her whole creative energy is just like rip roaring, so excited. It's such a beautiful container. And she has people who are literally asking, okay, where are the details? Tell me about it. I want to hear about it. I want to take my money, bitch. Right. Like, yeah, let's go. And so we walked through it, the whole thing, the pricing. And okay, what's the mastermind worth? It comes with a retreat. What's the retreat part worth? What do retreats costed in the past? We have to understand how much, okay, if it's going to be a really nice retreat, it costs a good $35,000 to put on. We have to bake that in. We have to make it profitable. This same, like a very similar story of I'm selling things. I sold it. I was excited about it. And then, 3 months later, I don't have enough. 6 months later, I have to sell something else. Like it wasn't enough. It's not, and then I'm beating myself up. I'm doing everything wrong. I should just like fold this business. It's not working. Why isn't it working? Why is it never working? Right. Like then the internal, like, oh my gosh, just the arrows just like stabbing herself in the heart breaks my heart. And so then this again, the pattern shows up. Why does this keep happening? Why does that cycle keep continuing? We figured out a price that feels great. We even figured out, okay, here's the whole price. The whole price is $22,000 for people who want to, say yes right away. It's, we take $4,000 off. It's 18. Like that was my first. I'm like, I don't love that. I don't love discounts right off the bat personally. But for some people it is, just a thing that works. And so it's like, okay, $18,000. If you sell this many, you'll have this much money. We'll take this much off to plan for the retreat. Does that, when you think about delivering this container for a whole year, does that feel uplifting? Yes, that feels great. I love it. It's exactly what I want. Okay, now we have conversations happening. And let's think about 8 people. Well, I have this VIP client and this VIP client and this VIP client, and I want to give them the same discount. I want to give them this extra discount. And then I have these other couple of people who, I want to give a discount for, these other various reasons. And as I'm listening to this, like my response, like what's coming up for me is like there's hardly any room left for a full pay. There's now 2 or 3 spots for someone to even pay the 18 because it's capped. There's not unlimited energy to bring people into this intimate container. But now you've actually, you've lowered your potential, even from the very start, your potential, like what this container could generate for you by 4,000 and then 4,000 again and then 4,000 again and then 2,000 again and then 2,000 again, what's left for you? What's left to sustain? And the money story that's come up before, again, it's the longer play of, now I have to sell something else. It didn't last as long as I thought it was going to last. Those like true money frustrations. The roller coaster that we talked about in a couple episodes, a couple of episodes ago. But the other story that comes up of, I'm afraid if I say the whole price, they're going to say no. That no one will show up. That I will be all alone. That one is like, ugh, I know. I know. It's a hard one.
Yeah. Because that is the, if we're just focusing on now, both of these clients obviously have more about their dynamics than their ego or heart center. But that is the plight, that is the condition of anyone who has either an undefined but also a completely open ego center. And part of that is because those of us who have it, we just walk around with legitimately no consistent notion of what we're worth.
Mm-hmm.
And while logically we know that we're worth something because we're here and we exist and all the things, to put a price tag on that is very scary, because when a rejection comes, and I say when because it always does, right? We're not here for everybody, and rejection happens to everybody.
If you're batting 100%, you actually are batting 1,000. Your prices are too low.
Yeah, 100%.
We're just gonna say that.
We'll just throw that one out there. But to have that rejection come, it just reinforces, see, other people won't even pay for that. Like, other people don't recognize your worth, which seems and sounds very dark and very self-deprecating. And yeah, that's sometimes how it feels. It feels like I don't want to put this out there for other people to only reinforce of what I already believe about myself. But this is where the awareness comes from. The awareness that your mind is taking the misunderstood energy of that center and swirling it around in your mind and convincing you, no, find a price low enough that someone will accept, just to show that you're worth something. And that only compounds the frustration if you're a generator, the bitterness if you're a projector, the anger if you're a manifester, and the disappointment if you're a reflector. It only exacerbates all of that, because it's like, no, I know deep down inside, I know I'm worth something, and I know I'm worth a lot. I just don't know how to feel into myself to ground myself in any sense of worth. And that's where the acceptance comes in, is accepting, one, that's always going to happen. Just because you have an open or undefined center doesn't mean like one day you're going to wake up and be like, oh, finally know my worth, found it, got it. No, the conditioning is always going to be there. The acceptance is that I'm just going to say, you have to push through it sometimes. You have to stand in the confidence of, yes, I know I'm going to be rejected. It's what happens as a business owner. Not everyone is going to say yes. Not everyone's going to see your value in what you're offering. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I think I've said this a lot. The only way through it is through it. And to have that win, that boost, that confidence of, I'm only going to know if someone's willing to pay that if I actually try.
Uh-huh.
And, part of what I've done in the past is just having conversations about it with no one at all, but just practicing saying that price over and over and over and over and over until it's like, okay, yeah. That's the only option there is. And again, part of the acceptance is like, you are who you are. And that's not to say like, I am who I am, I don't change. No, no, no. I mean, it's understanding the mechanics of who you are and recognizing that your mind's going to fuck with you every step of the way, depending on whatever open center or undefined center you have. And just knowing that my mind just hasn't figured out how to place that value. But if I work with someone like Hannah, or I go inside these programs and it just continues to be reinforced and reinforced and reinforced and reinforced that I have people in my corner who not only show me the logic and the energy behind it, but that part of what we also work on is the messaging behind it, this is the money story. And to be fair, if you work with us, we'll point it out. We point it out fairly directly as well, in a very loving way, as to say, hey, remember when we talked about the just enough, or, the idea of, I don't want to be alone. Here's that pattern in real life.
Yeah. This is the start of that pattern starting again. You get to choose. This is your choice point of, am I going to do the pattern again? Or am I going to try something different?
Yeah. Am I going in the roundabout to come back to this? or am I veering off one of those roundabouts and taking a completely different direction?
Right.
Knowing that, you know what, it's going to be uncomfortable, but.
Well, and I mean, this is such a good point too, because, in the case of the mastermind, it's a year long. So your roundabout is a year long journey. That's a lot of life to live before you get to really, not that you would never have the opportunity to undo to challenge the pattern again in that year, but you just made a year-long commitment inside of that old pattern. So even if you move way past it within the year, that's also where anger, bitterness, resentment, frustration come from, is like, God damn it, I'm still having to deliver this container that feels terrible. I just want to be done with it. I just want to blah, 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 right? Raise my hand. I've done that before.
100%. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's, and with the, the product example, same thing. It's like, you get involved in that. How are you going to peel yourself out? You don't know actually when that roundabout ends. And so in the context of these bigger business opportunities and decisions, I mean, that's why it's so important to start to make decisions differently. I mean, it's not like, oh, I chose the wrong bag of chips. I really wish I would have gotten a different flavor for lunch. This is your financial security. And if you have employees, the security of your employees, this is big.
Yes.
Financial decision making is the most important part of your business, truly.
Right. And actually, one thing that I want to point out for the listener is, we talk a lot about money stories and the idea of just enough, that you can make kind of the logical connection to just enough and money, right? But the other client, the other example of, I don't want to be alone. Most people may not make that connection to money. And that's why it's so important and so powerful to root through your relationship with money, because it's going to surface in ways that you have never even considered. And how the connection of, I don't want to be alone, leads a beautiful soul to reduce her program down to next to nothing, to have that connection and recognize, oh shit, I actually have no money to support myself because I listened to the money story of aloneness or trying to avoid aloneness. And therefore, I don't have enough to actually sustain my life. Only perpetuating that idea of feeling alone, because oftentimes when you don't, when money feels tight, it feels lonely.
You restrict. Yes.
Yes.
You do become more alone. You feel like that all the other stories, I'm doing it wrong, something's wrong with me. I can't go do these things. I can't go on vacation. I can't go be with my friends. It does. It does create the experience of aloneness. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to, I almost can't stress the importance of recognizing that your relationship with money is one of the most important relationships to examine. And how pervasive it can be in all the tentacles of your life, right? In all the branches of your life, particularly if you are a business owner. And how you think that it's more about your effort or what you're doing versus how you're doing, when really at the end of the day, what's running under the surface when you peel back all of the layers is rooted in the way you connect or not with money. Because you can link that to how you approach your business, how you approach your operations, how you approach bringing anything or taking anything out of your business to money.
Right. And then of course, like it's so obvious too, when you like peel it back, like, oh, well, yeah, then that in the business, then it flows through to, am I able to pay myself, which flows through, am I able to, send my kids to summer camp that is going to be good for them? Am I going to be able to pay for, braces? Whatever it is, am I going to be able to take a vacation? Am I going to be able to take time off to take care of my own health and well-being? Am I going to be able to go on a freaking date with my spouse even once a month to carve out the time and the money for that? Right? It's like the way that it touches our relationships is so, like you said, there's so many tentacles. It's so multifaceted. It's not simply a matter of, if I just had more revenue coming in, things would get better. It's not enough. And I don't mean it's not enough in the sense you're not enough. I mean, it's not enough to just get more revenue in the door. Because again, I have seen so many businesses that make $750,000 a year, $1 million a year, multiple seven figures a year, where the owner does not pay themselves. Maybe their living expenses are literally $10,000 to $15,000 a month. They literally cannot pay themselves that off of $1 million business. And I hate that that's true. So it's not a matter of, if you were going to be able to pay yourself and you've already shown that you can make $700,000, $1 million, $6 million. If making more revenue was going to allow you to pay yourself, you already would have done it. Already would have done it.
Yeah. And that's what it's like working with us, right? Is the idea that we support you in understanding, particularly on the side of the Expansive CEO, when we're really looking at the business and we're dissecting what's working, what isn't, and really looking at, okay, what is that relationship with money? What are your offers? How does the math actually shake out? By the way, once we have the math, we also pair that with money story meditations to allow you to work through how to actually take an aligned action, or through meditation, through reflection, through slowing down and going at a turtle's pace, how do you find comfort in whatever the next aligned action is, knowing it's probably going to be different than what you've needed to do before, or it needs to be different than what you've done before in order to facilitate a different outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the magic of it all, is that curating a process and experience that is intentional enough that as people work through it, the turtle's pace is created.
Right. And let's all remember that in Aesop's fable, the turtle wins. The turtle wins the race. And it also doesn't mean that you might not speed up after you get, that slowdown. I really do like the saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. A marine saying, I think. Because slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
I always come back to this. I'm going to nerd out a little bit on human design for a hot second, right?
Have at it.
When you look at the format energies, so for a listener out there, the format energies are the channels that connect the root, which is the bottom, the brown, typically brown in Hannah and I's world, brown square at the bottom of your chart, to the sacral, which is the second square from the bottom, typically red. Those are the format energies.
There are 3 of them.
There are 3 of them. There's the channel of maturation, a design of balanced development. There's the channel of mutation, a design of energy that initiates and fluctuates, if I remember. And then the channel of concentration, a design of focus. And you don't have to understand anything about these energies, but what is always interesting to me is that it is these energies that actually show us that progress is intentional, it is slow, and oftentimes it is outside of our control. The channel of concentration has the gate 52, gate of stillness, a gate of keeping still mountain. And this idea that in order to understand what to focus on, the whole intention behind the channel is in order to know what to focus on or understand what to focus on, you have to be still. You can't shove 50 pounds of shit into your life to understand and be frenetic and all the things going on. You won't be able to concentrate and focus on the experiment of figuring out what's actually going to lead to a life of vitality. Then you look at the channel of mutation. At gate 60, the gate of limitation. Or gate 3, the gate of chaos. Chaos in the beginning. That order comes just letting it come.
Uh-huh.
Not trying to force and control the outcome. The gate of limitation I just kind of have to let life figure out what life is going to do in order to bring order to this chaos of whatever the hell is new and mutative going on in life. And then the channel of maturation, the design of balanced development. Gate 53, the gate of beginnings. Gate 42, the gate of growth or the gate of increase. The gate of endings. That once you actually get into something, you have to see it through all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 channels show us that life is actually intended to be taken slowly. And what's really ironic is that it all comes from the root center, all from the physical pressure in life, all from the stress center. And what I think the ironic thing of what the universe is saying to us is, learn to be comfortable in the pressure.
Uh-huh.
Learn to recognize when pressure requires something to do with it. And learn when pressure is there simply to move through, right? I think the root center is here to teach us how we all process stress. For those of us who have it defined, right, we have a consistent, reliable way of how we process it. For you, someone like you who has it undefined, nope, no consistent way of processing stress. But what it's here to teach us, both of us, depending on what that looks like, is how we handle stress, how we allow that stress, how we allow evolution and momentum to move through us. And all three of those channels say, how about you slow the fuck down?
Mm-hmm.
How about you get a little comfortable feeling pressure? How about you get a little comfortable feeling a little bit uncomfortable, not knowing necessarily when the pressure valve may just release a little bit? And that's not to say sit and be anxious and, just like sit here on pins and needles, but it's recognizing how you can move that pressure differently without having to take frenetic action like talking about. How do you break the pattern sitting with a little bit of that pressure?
And what's so interesting so for Lauren and I in our connection chart, I carry all three format energies from the sacral going down. So gate 42, gate 3, and gate 9. I have the ones that point down to the root, but I don't have any of the root gates pointing up. Lauren has all three of the root gates pointing up. So it's so interesting to play around with that or to notice that. And again, I'm sure we'll talk about this at another time in the future too, like being in partnership, learning how to work with that, like your defined root on my undefined root, those three format energies all connecting in our electromagnetic connection, in our connection chart, how we communicate with each other around that. And we are intentional. We intentionally communicate with each other when it's like, hey, this is a little bit more of an urgent thing. Can you get to me? Or more of the time, Lauren's like, oh, I'm working on this thing. It's not urgent. Look at it when you feel ready. I'm not pushing you to get the pressure off. I'm just letting you know it's here when you're ready to look at it. And just being intentional, again, knowing that we condition each other in different ways. How do we navigate that with intention?
Yes. And I think those format energy, I contemplate them a lot because they are so prevalent in both of our charts. And I always come back to, I was like, I just think it's so ironic that the things that can have a huge influence on our charts are all about slowing down, are all about stillness, are all about intentional beginnings. Because if you get caught in a cycle that you're not meant to be caught in, life's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
And when you try to force order, trying to relieve the pressure, or when you're trying to like focus on how do I, what I think for me, because my gate 52 is in my incarnation cross, which means that it's got a pretty significant influence on who I am as a person. It's like, yeah, I do. I can only effectively respond as a generator when I don't have frenetic things inside me. But it all comes back to, I mention all of it because it all comes back to what we're talking about. The awareness of whatever it is, that money story that you've got, right? Or whatever status relationship you have with money. And then the acceptance. And back to what you're talking about, this turtle's pace of we're gonna take a pause and we're gonna sit in the story for a hot second. Because if we don't sit in the story, we actually can't find the best aligned action. We're going to start something we don't necessarily mean to start. We're going to get stuck in a cycle. We're going to try to break through the chaos and force it and control it and find some kind of different mutation. Or we're going to start focusing on the wrong things. And I think it's just hilarious that the universe is like, hello, humans. How about we don't act so quickly?
Slow it down.
Slow it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
The turtle, yeah, slow. What is it? Steady. Oh my God. You just said it. Slow
and smooth.
and smooth is fast. Yeah. I mean, I think that is the culmination of awareness, acceptance, aligned action, particularly when it comes to money, because it holds such a significant part of our lives. And then it's really important to understand where you stand with money.
Yeah. Yep. I've talked about this before. I don't know when it was. In different ways. It's come up a lot. It's probably another one worth addressing in $1 million question. Of, treating money as a primary relationship in your life from an attachment style, from attachment lens, psychologically, right? Like literally, it all of the things when you look at anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, disorganized attachment, like just put yourself and money in the container, and how are you attached? It's a primary relationship in your life, and it's again, it's so important. It's so important to
Yes.
look at,
I'm writing that down because we'll both forget that we talked about
right?
it. So
Lauren makes notes. I do too. I just not all the time.
No. It's actually it's really funny if you were to do an experiment and the number of people who take notes, majority of them are probably 1-3s. That's just what we do.
I can see that. And I've also, from that human design lens, like I am a manifesting generator with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I have 9 activations on my sacral of like, what do we do? What do we do? What's next? What are we doing? I'm going to do something. I got to go. You're too slow for me. I'm going to move. I know the pain of slowing down. Like it hurts to have to slow down sometimes, right? Because all my energy is like, let's go. So from deep experience, and for all of my other Mani-gens, because I also tend to draw a lot of Mani-gens to me, it's okay to slow down, right? Like it is okay. It's not about the frenetic movement. Again, it's about the aligned movement. And then when you're in aligned movement, we can also attest to that, Lauren. I will move insanely fast.
Oh, holy hell.
It's hilarious.
Yes. And what I always find really funny is I have 1 activation on my sacral. Just 1. Right?
But you're a generator, makes you a generator.
It's the only thing that makes me a generator. So yes, you will move fast. And there are times I'm like, thank God I have 1 because I can keep the pace. I can keep up and it's awesome. And then, when we finally stop, I'm like, oh yeah, that is the difference between a pure generator and a manifesting generator. We'll get to the same typically, right? Generally speaking, pure generators and manifesting generators will get to the same endpoint. We will not take the same paths to get there.
Nope. We will not.
I probably hit more plateaus than you do. I'll probably take more breaks. I'm like, no, I'm good for right now.
Yeah, no, that's a whole thing. When I am like in the like obsession phase with something, it is like
You're in it.
Like nobody talk to me right now. I'm in zombie mode.
It's actually quite fascinating to see.
You can tell people about it sometime. And I can control it, but it's like, no, I can't.
No, you can't.
I can't control it. It's like I can move in and out of it, but man, it is like the frustration is like the anger with the frustration is quick when it's like someone's like, no, stop doing what you want to do and do what I want to do. And I'm like,
yeah. Well, your 2034 is conscious, and that's why, right? It's because you're completely aware of it, and someone comes interrupting it. You're like, to be fair, while I don't have the 3420, I have 3457. When someone interrupts me in my flow, I'm like, the judgmental opinions that flow through my mind, sometimes, depending on the mood I'm in, they will come out of my mouth. But yes, to be interrupted when my energy is doing what it wants to do. I think that's the whole generator thing, is like, while I may not be angry, I'm definitely frustrated, just simply because, right, you have the connection directly to your throat. But whoo, bad news bears.
Bad news bears. So anyway, if you're listening to that and you're like, I don't want to go slow, that's dumb. I understand. I get it.
Yes.
I feel you.
Yes.
But I can also attest very, very clearly to the fact that when you're actually taking an aligned action, it's not just fast, it's purposeful, and it's freaking beautiful. It's like it doesn't even really make sense when you stop and look back at what you've created. Like, I don't know how that happened. I do, but I don't. And it was amazing. And that's like the power of that energy when it's not frenetic.
Yeah.
When it's actually aligned.
And I would think that stillness, actually, or that when, in reference to the format energies, it's more of in that acceptance phase. Like just taking a moment to sit in all of that, to not even make sense of it, simply just to feel it and accept it. Because once you move into aligned action, then it's like, full bore. Like, go ahead, do what you need to do based on your own energy. It's like those format energies just kind of help ground us in the acceptance phase of, I don't need to be going like this to figure out whatever action it is. Let me sit at a snail's pace to accept, and then moved into line action. And then it can be as fast as you want it to be, or fast as is correct for you.
Right. Yeah, that's such a good way to put it. All right, we have to wrap up, but we want to invite you again. We're going to keep inviting you over to Substack because this, like we've been talking a lot about money stories and money meditations. You can have all of them as the gift for the founding members of our subscriber Substack, and it's so good. I'm so happy with it. It's 6 different meditations that flow you through different areas of life. And it really does make a difference. So that's your gift when you become a founding member subscriber. Go check it out. There are now, I don't know how many, there's a lot of subscriber posts available for you to go through, some $1 million questions to start listening to. It's really, really beautiful. It's really fun. And stay tuned. We've got more cool things that I'm building because I can't help it right
frenetically
now.
working from after the aligned action?
I'm not frenetically working, but I am intensely working.
Yes.
So anyway, you'll hear about that later when it's ready. Otherwise, you can go hit up X Squared if you are actually ready for that side of really exploring your money stories and implementing a lot of what we need to do in order to keep you in alignment long term. Hit us up on Substack. Those are the places where we really want people to go hang out with us.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, that is it for today.
All right. Well, join us next week. We'll talk about more important things. I didn't write down a topic, so we'll just see what it is. Come see. We'll play together. Bye, everyone.
Bye, friends.